landfill here. And what's neat is that we are the only company in San Francisco due to an agreement that's like 100 years old. And so we're not spending a lot of our time fighting for contracts. We're able to spend that time being really innovative on our education outreach programs and also the technologies that we have invested for recycling. So, actually, where I sit, my office is like around the corner off 7th and Berry, so we're actually neighbors. We're really close here. I walked here today, super easy. So let's jump in. So how many of you throw things away? Raise your hand if you throw things away. Right, we all do. It's a part of our everyday lives. We all eat things, we consume things, and it has to go somewhere. So this presentation is for everyone. People think like, oh, I don't really care about this. It doesn't matter to me. It's for everyone. So Recology started almost 100 years ago. We were founded by a group of Italian immigrants, and what we were doing was just walking around and scavenging whatever we could and recovering materials that we found, and then everything else was thrown into the landfills. Or back then it was like thrown wherever they wanted to. But then we have a more mechanized system now due to a lot of health concerns. So our guys used to like carry everything on their back. This bin alone weighs 40 pounds on its own. So imagine it like full of trash and they're walking up hills with these things. Like, it's pretty wild. But then we eventually got more of a mechanized system. And we introduced a single stream recycling program. So single stream means that you can throw everything into one bin. You don't have to sort things out separately. Everything goes into one bin. And San Francisco was also the very first company to introduce curbside composting. So we were already doing composting of things like your yard waste and your leaves, and other cities were doing that already too. But we were the very first ones to take your kitchen waste, so your food scraps and also your food soil papers. So there are people that come from all over the world to learn about San Francisco's composting programs so that they can introduce it. So how many of you are not from San Francisco? Yeah, so did you guys have composting where you used to live? No, right. So it's like it's something that isn't everywhere, so we're very lucky that we have it here. I grew up in California, but then I went to high school in Connecticut and college in Las Vegas, and they don't have composting in those two places. So when I moved here, I was like, I love this place because you can compost. So San Francisco has a series of diversion goals, and so diversion means that we want to divert as much waste from the landfill and put it into our recycling and composting streams. So our first goal was 50% by 2000. We quickly surpassed that one, so then we set another goal for 75% by 2010. We passed that one, so then we set another goal of 100% landfill diversion by 2020, so zero waste. We knew that was super ambitious, but we decided to like just put it out there and do our best. So what is our current diversion? Where are we now? 85. 85?
90?
90?
95.
95? Okay, those are some good guesses. We're actually at 80%. So 80% is actually really, really good. We're the highest in all of North America. It's not just the US, in all of North America. So we're recycling and composting 80% of the waste that's generated here in San Francisco. However, we're still not quite there. You know, there's still 20% that we're not quite getting. So, and 2020, as we all know, is around the corner. So we really have to start rethinking our goals. And back in the fall, there was a huge global conference that was here, and the mayor introduced a series of new goals. So these new goals are focused really on reduction. So how can we reduce the amount of waste that's generated here in San Francisco? So we want to reduce waste by 15% by 2030. So that's not just reducing the amount of landfill that's generated, but also reducing the amount of compost and recyclables that's generated. So ways to reduce compost is there's a lot of food waste that happens. Like, you know, I know you guys donate a lot of food to a lot of nonprofits. Like that's one great way. Instead of putting that into the compost, you're feeding people with that. Another method of reducing recyclables, there's a lot of single-use plastics that technically, yeah, you could recycle, but really focus on like how can we just not recycle it and really rethink how we're using products and use more things that are durable. So then we also want to reduce landfill disposal by 50%, so that 20% we weren't quite getting, we want to cut that in half by 2030. So how many of you feel like this when you're at the bin? It's okay, you can raise your hand. You guys are all pros, you don't feel like this when you're at the bin?
How often?
Like, anytime. Do you feel like this when you're at the bin?
Not really.
Not really? Oh.
81%.
Wow. So if I gave you all a test, you would all pass right now.
No, but
Oh wow, okay, you guys are pros. So, but there are things you on, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so then you kind of feel like this. Then you do feel like this. It's okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so imagine you're walking around in like Japan, and you're like, wow!
Wow.
Like, let's pretend you can read these signs. And you're like, wow, where do I put all my items? Like, there's so many different options. So the reason why there's so many options for your items here is because they've been not invested in a single stream program like we have. And we've invested in a lot of money and technology to have everything go into one bin. In other cities and countries, they want you to separate it out for them. Another example of that is like in Sweden. Let's say you're walking your dog through the park and you want to throw away your bottle and you're like, oh, where do I put it? So in other cities and countries, you have to separate your brown glass from your clear glass. You can't put newspapers and printer paper in the same bin. Like, you have to separate all those things out separately. But, so if anyone ever says, oh, I don't recycle and compost because it's too hard, like, I don't know where to put it, just tell them, there's only three bins in San Francisco. We just have to focus on the fantastic three. Your recycle, your compost, and your landfill. That's it. So, again, if anyone ever says it's hard, tell them this. So, usually your trash is like out of sight, out of mind. Like, you put it in the bin, you don't even know where it goes. You think the ferries take it, the trash ferries take it away. So who can tell me, where does our waste in San Francisco go? Any guesses?
China.
Where?
Yeah.
Oh, kind of. China?
Yeah.
Anywhere else? Where does it go before China? Any other guesses? No? Okay. So the reason why I ask you that question is every single thing that you use, and once it goes into the bin, it has a journey. And I really want you to think about that journey because it's a long journey. And every item you use has to go through that. And I want you to rethink about that. Yes? Pardon? Why does everything? Because it's just where they end up. And we'll talk about that. Okay. So I'm going to talk about all of the streams, like journeys, like where they go. So, what is this bin? Right, so like your landfill, your garbage, your trash, those terms are used interchangeably. So how many of you live in San Francisco? So it's okay if you don't. The reason why I asked that, in San Francisco we have different recycling and composting rules, and also the colors of the bins vary by the city. So in San Francisco, this bin is the landfill or the trash or the garbage bin. Those terms are used interchangeably. Do you guys have questions? No? Okay, so let's keep going then. So for this bin, we want to make sure, again, the colored system. So this is where the trash goes. The trash goes to an area, what we call the pit or our transfer station. So this is located right off the 101. Let's say you're driving down the freeway, you're going to the airport. You see, like right as you're kind of close to South San Francisco, the big Recology on the right side. Big R right there. Seagulls might be flying everywhere. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Candlestick. Yeah, Candlestick. Yeah, right there. Cow Palace area. Yeah, that's where all of your trash in San Francisco is going. So it first ends up there. The trucks dump everything into here, and then it's compacted with the tractor, and then pushed into a long semi-hauler, and then it's covered up, and it goes straight to a landfill up in like the Vacaville area north of here. So once it goes into the landfill, it sits there for probably like millions of years. We have no idea how long it takes for things in a landfill to break down, and that's usually because it's always compacted and it's very preserved, and it takes a long time to break down. So you might say like, oh, I'll just throw my banana peel in the landfill bin, it's fine, it'll break down in the landfill. It actually will take a lot longer for it to break down in the landfill because of how compacted it is. So the closest landfill to here, who knows where that is? The closest one to here? There's actually one, not too far. Okay, so the closest one to here is actually in Half Moon Bay. This is actually a photo from that one. Half Moon Bay is right in our backyard, right? So we are running out of space with landfills. We can't just open another one. We have to make sure that we're putting things in the right bin. And they say about 60 to 90% of your waste generated can go into the recycle or the compost bin. So we really need to make sure that we're not sending things to this landfill. All right. So what is this bin? Recycle, perfect. So again, blue is recycle in San Francisco. So this is where the recycling goes. It's called our transfer station, Pier 96 Recycle Central. And so this location is located off like 3rd Street, Dog Patch neighborhood. over there where all the trucks come through, they dump everything here, and then the tractor will scoop everything up and put it onto our sorting lines. So this facility is the most innovative facility in the whole country. The Today Show was there a couple days ago filming, and it was aired yesterday, so we're like national celebrities now. So once it's jumped onto the lines there, so it goes onto a series of sorting lines, there is one group of people that is sorting here, but what they're doing is they're pulling out things that don't belong. So things like Christmas lights, plastic bags, huge pots and pans, like things that would jam the equipment we don't want in there, and they're trying to pull all those things out to make sure that doesn't happen. So then once they go onto the lines here, they are using just basic science. So it's like physics, like they're using gravity, air, magnets, lasers and AI to sort everything out. So like, let's say all the metal, there's this magnet that just like is right there, and all the metal just like flies onto the magnet. Pretty cool, right? So then once it goes through all the lines and it's being sorted into its proper place, then it goes into bales. So this is a picture of me here, but let's look at the bales behind it first. So the bales are sorted out, and then they're shipped to markets in Southeast Asia. So the paper and the plastic are going there, and then our metals and glasses are staying in the US. So there are markets for the glass and the metal in the US because they have developed here. The reason why China, you mentioned earlier, they're actually not taking a lot of the world's recycling anymore because of how contaminated it was, and they were basically having to throw a lot of things away, and they were like, we're tired of taking the world's trash, like, we don't want to do this anymore. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, but the reason why my picture's here is because we offer tours, and you could take a great photo like that in front of all the bales, and we invite you to come on our tours. They're open to the public. We also have tours available for employees of San Francisco, and we call it our commercial tour, where you can join us for that. So if you're interested, you can email me about it. So let's talk about the decline values of bale recycling. So how many of you have heard that recycling programs around the country are like shutting down? Heard that? Yeah. So the reason why is China's not taking a lot of the world's recyclables. They're not finding, people can't find markets for them, so they're shutting down recycling programs. The value of recyclables has significantly dropped. I want to let you know that if you ever hear like that it doesn't matter to recycle anymore because people are throwing it away, that's not true in San Francisco. In San Francisco, we are still recycling everything. We're just sending it to markets. We're losing money on it, but we don't care. It's the right thing to do. It's important that we recycle. So please make sure that your recycling is clean as possible, because we are trying to get down to their contamination level that they'll take. So they used to accept a contamination level of about 6 to 7%. So let's say a paper bale, that could be contaminated, 6 to 7%. People were still sending things that were like way more contaminated than that. They would have to throw all that away, cause a lot of issues there. So they decided to cut that contamination level to less than 0.5%. So no one in the world had a contamination level of less than 0.5%. So then that left the world scrambling. We were able to find other markets in Southeast Asia that we're sending our recycling to, and we're working on investing in technologies to get to that 0.5%. So here's an example of some technology we invested in. This is called the Pelonk system. We just installed it a couple months ago, and what this is doing, this one specifically right here, is separating out a lot of plastic film from the paper. So they're using like this really cool laser program, and they can detect when, let's say, a plastic bag is floating through the line. And so once they detect a plastic bag, it'll have a quick puff of air, and that plastic bag will then float onto another line, and the paper would fall into another line. So then we're able to separate out the plastic from the paper, and we're able to get a paper bale now about 1% contaminated. So we're very, very close to that 0.5. So that's why we need to do more education, just like right now, to make sure we're not putting like plastic film and things in the recycling. So recycling is great too because it creates a lot of jobs. We have all of our drivers, our office staff, our dispatch staff, and also our employees at this facility right here, our Pier 96. There's 185 employees that work there, and it runs 24 hours a day, 3 8-hour shifts. And the cool thing about this facility is in order to get the gig here, you have to live within the surrounding zip codes of that facility. So we're able to uplift a local neighborhood and economy right then and there. And all these employees, all of our Recology employees, we're a proud employee-owned company, so we all get stock in the company. All of these employees are union employees, they get full benefits, you name it. So this is a great job, and we're able to uplift that local economy right there. So recycling is really important too because it's good for our environment. This is a picture I just Googled, like an aluminum mine. So every time you don't recycle an aluminum can, for example, let's say your LaCroix can, you're like, oh, I'm just going to put it in the trash, whatever. You're encouraging more of this to happen because this is virgin material that we have to keep extracting if we're not recycling what's already out there. So even like these aluminum trays right there, we got to make sure those are very clean so we can recycle those aluminum trays, because if you're not recycling those aluminum trays, you're encouraging more of this. So we're chopping down trees and mountain tops, we're exploding mountains just to get that aluminum ore and get that virgin material, because we're putting all of that into the landfill. So again, it's really important we recycle the materials that are already out there. So there's a lot of contamination that can occur too. We want to make sure that recycling is as clean as possible. There's food waste that can be on paper containers. We want to make sure that the paper is clean. We can actually compost this. The tea that's full of liquid, we want to make sure that it's empty, so that because that liquid can spill onto adjacent paper, and that paper is then dirty and you can't even recycle it anymore. And then plastic bags are a huge issue in the recycling. We want to make sure that you're not using any plastic bags in the recycling. Don't throw a loose plastic bag in there. I know sometimes it has that recycle symbol on there, but it cannot go in the recycling because it will jam the sorting equipment. So what do you guys see here? What kind of contamination do you see?
The paper is all distorted.
Distorted is okay. Oh, sorry. This is okay. If it's like crumpled up, it's okay. But this is not okay. So it's contaminated. It's dirty. Anything else? This is okay. The lid is fine. Okay, so let's go over here. So we have soiled cardboard here. So it looks like someone dropped like their coffee cup or something on there. This cardboard is now contaminated. We can't even recycle it anymore. You can compost it if it's dirty, but you can't even recycle it anymore. And then there's a lot of plastic bags in here. You can't put plastic bags in the recycle. There's waxed cardboard. We want to make sure that the waxed cardboard goes into the compost, not the recycle. Banana peel, this needs to go into the compost. And the wire hanger, yeah, it is wire, but the wire hanger will just latch onto all the equipment and cause a lot of issues. So the hanger, yeah, if you have like one random hanger, put it in the trash, but let's say your dry cleaners, most of them will take them back, and they would be happy to. There are some dry cleaners that don't take them back, and you should consider switching dry cleaners to one that does. So, your bin, your green one, what is this bin?
Compost.
Perfect. Compost. Green is compost. So compost is really anything that used to be alive. So that's your food scraps, your food waste, moldy strawberries, that can all go in here. Your pizza boxes, your food soiled paper plates, paper bowls, your compostable utensils and containers, cardboard that's dirty, that can all be composted. So again, those items used to be alive and they could be broken down and made into our natural organic fertilizers. I asked a kid once, oh, what's compost? And he was like, anything a goat would eat. I was like, what? But he's right. A goat would not eat a glass bottle. It would not eat an aluminum can, right? It might eat a napkin, which is fine. It'll break down. So this is where the compost goes. This is our organics annex, which is located right next to where our trash goes. And so this is a brand new facility. We composted so much in San Francisco from when we first started the program that we had to build a brand new facility for it. So we first were doing about 10 tons a day back in 2001. Now we're composting about 750 to 800 tons every single day. So it's a lot of compost. So then it's shipped in containers or in trucks down to our organics facility in like the Modesto Central Valley area. And so all of the organics are then laid into long rows just like this, covered with reusable tarp, and then turned over time. Within 6 to 8 weeks, they're turned into natural organic fertilizers like this. So here's another visual. So you have your carrot tops, you don't use the tops, put them in the compost bin, it's turned into compost within 6 to 8 weeks. This compost is then put back on the farms to help feed the farms. And so when we're doing this, we're encouraging more natural, organic farming methods, and then these farmers don't have to use pesticides and herbicides, so they're able to produce organic material. And so what's neat is this is all happening locally within the region, and we're able to provide this compost to these farmers. So they go to farmers, we sell the compost to farmers in the Central Valley and also in wineries up in Napa and Sonoma. So now that like your banana peel is being turned into wine. So there is contamination that can also happen in your compost. Plastic bags are a big one. This is a pile of some compost, but all those little specks in there, those are plastic bags. Please don't use plastic bags in your compost, or don't put plastic in your compost. It does not break down in our facility. A goat wouldn't eat it, right? Like, it just doesn't belong in there. Glass is also another huge problem. This is the photo my colleague took. And the glass will most likely break apart during transport, and it's really hard to recover all those little shards of glass. Those little shards of glass will then be put onto the fields on the farmers. The farmers have a risk of getting cut. And also, a potato can technically grow around a piece of glass. So it's really, really important when we're not putting glass in the compost. Just know our driver would probably see this and not put it in his truck. He would call the recycle driver and ask him to come pick it up. And then the bar or whatever this was would then be fined for that. So what do you guys see here in the compost? What's contamination? Plastic. Yeah. Perfect. So we have a plastic water bottle that needs to go in the recycle. These plastic containers, they are filled with sauce, so it's really important. People think like, oh, it's the sauce container, it's food, I can just put the whole thing into the compost. Like, no, please don't do that. Please empty the contents into the compost. Give it a quick rinse if you can, or if you're not near a sink, wipe it with a napkin, compost a napkin, and then you can recycle the plastic. And then this plastic like pizza topper thing, that needs to go into the recycle. So let's talk about these strange mixture materials. How many of you guys have ever gotten takeout and seen like these materials that say all these cool words on them? So this one says taterware, biodegradable, GMO-free, and bio-based. This one says 100% eco-friendly, cornstarch. And this one says 100% compostable. So which of these can you put into the compost? All of them? Some of them? None of them? One of them? Two of them?
Two of them. These ones end up with recycling.
So all of them.
All of them? Right, it's confusing, huh? So let's actually talk about, there's only one answer.
Oh, bio? No, yeah, that, all of them.
All of them? All right, so there's only one you can put into the compost, and it's this one right here, the cup. The reason why is because of this word compostable. So that word, only companies that have been certified, BPI certified, can use that word compostable. All these other companies are using what we call greenwashing words to make you think they're better for the environment, so you buy their products. And so, like biodegradable, technically, yeah, this product is biodegradable, but in like thousands of years, like we have no idea how long it'll take down. So these products, these cornstarch ones or bio-based, like they might have a little bit of plant-based oils in there, but it's probably mixed with like a petroleum-based oil. And so that weird mixture of materials, you can't even recycle it anymore. We actually asked it to go into the trash. So it's like that weird mixture of materials. I know it's confusing, but in San Francisco there is legislation that just passed, and in 2020, all of the products that are to-go containers have to be recyclable or compostable. So they'll either say the word compostable on it, or you'll be able to recycle it. Yeah. Any questions on that? So yeah, look for the word compostable. Sometimes it's very, very clear, like it's huge, you can see it. Sometimes it's really, really small, like on a lot of your forks and knives and spoons, you might see the word really small on there. If it says it, then compost it. If it doesn't, then it might be like a weird mixture, and if that weird mixture, put it in the trash. The serving utensils that you guys have, the silver ones, the silver plastic ones, those can go in the recycle, but they just need to be clean. Yeah. So also let's talk a little bit more about what goes into each of the 3 bins. So your recycle. So this is anything that can be broken down and made into that material again. So your aluminum, your glass, your paper. So let's talk about these products that I have circled here. These are also brand new in San Francisco's programs. So the milk jug, the coffee cup, and the ice cream tub, those actually used to go into the compost because they're like a food soil paper. But actually we just moved them to the recycle because there's a really thick plastic liner on the inside, which is the reason why the liquid doesn't just like gush out of the paper container. And that plastic liner wasn't breaking down in our compost facility. So we just asked that you make sure they're empty and they go into the recycle. So like coffee cups, unless they say that they're compostable on them, they need to go in the recycle. So like your Starbucks, Phil's, Pete's, those are all go into the recycle. Just make sure they're empty, remove the lid, make sure it's empty. Or bring your reusable cup, then you don't have to worry about it. Tetra Paks, so those are things like your almond milk, your soy milk, chicken broth. those have a bunch of layers of material. They're paper, aluminum, and plastic layered together and fused together. Those used to go into the trash, but we now partnered with a vendor that is able to pull apart those layers and recycle them. So another thing about plastic containers and also the aluminum trays, those can all be recycled as long as they are clean. So make sure you're rinsing them out. I know that those trays are usually covered in sauces, and you guys have a system here to clean them out. So just make sure they're clean before you recycle them. Any questions on recycle?
If it's not clean, we have to trash it.
No, don't put it in the trash, because the reason why is the auditors will still come by and it could have been clean and they know that it could have been recovered, and so you could be like targeted and fined for that. Yeah. So if they find recoverable materials in the trash, then that is not good, because
That's against the law.
Who are they?
so in San Francisco, it's the law to recycle and compost correctly. Yeah. Yeah. So it's really important you're doing things right. Exactly, right? All right. So there is a way to recycle plastic bags, and I do want to go over that real quick. They just have to be contained inside of a clear plastic bag. So it has to be clear, and the reason why it has to be clear is so we can see what's inside, so we know that it's only plastic bags in there. So you can put Ziploc bags, plastic bags, saran wrap, but only if those items are clean, and they can be recycled in this clear bag. If you have just like one Ziploc bag or one plastic bag, it needs to go into the trash. Don't put it loose in the bin. So if you want to recycle your plastic bags, this is how you do it. Any questions on that? No? Okay.
How many people know that?
We've done a lot of messaging on it. This is a new program too. It's about 2 years old. So if you have like loose plastic bags and you have a lot of them, throw them in the trash. Okay, your compost, anything that used to be alive. So that's your fruit, your dairy, your chicken bones, meat, we can take that in our compost. Back when compost first started, it wasn't breaking down in like people's backyard compost systems, but in our industrial facility, it will break down. And so food containers, your paper plates, paper bowls, those can all go into the compost. And then your landfill bin. This is really anything that like this snack wrappers, broken ceramics, styrofoam, packing peanuts, toothpaste tubes, gloves, those all go into the trash. They can't be made into new materials, so they need to go into the landfill bin. Any questions on landfill? No. All right, so majority of the waste that you do generate, like about 60 to 90%, goes into the landfill bin. I would say closer to 90%. So when you have an item, it most likely won't go here. So back to that reduction goal of how we want to rethink how we're using things. This is kind of a hierarchy of how you think about that item you're using. So how can you avoid using that plastic water bottle? How can you refuse it and use something else? What can you use and really reuse over and over again? And then the last things you want to do are to recycle, recover, and dispose of them. So it's really like rethinking how we're using items. So here are some ways and methods you can start refusing items and reusing them. So let's say your utensil. So instead of using like a plastic utensil or a compostable one, I have this reusable one that I just carry in my bag everywhere I go. It's like a spork and a knife. And I use this so that I'm not having to generate more waste, really focusing on that reduction. For straw, I either refuse it or I carry my boba straw everywhere I go. You need a straw for boba, right? And so, this is how I refuse and reuse things. Same with my water bottle, instead of using a plastic water bottle, I use my reusable one. I see you have yours over there, great. And then, towels instead of paper towels, reusable bags over the plastic bags. Produce, instead of buying it inside plastic packaging, buy it loose, go to the farmer's market, and you can also buy it, and I have like reusable produce bags, and I fill those up instead of using plastic ones. So there's a lot of different things that you could do to start refusing and reusing. So I want you to take a look at an item here. Choose one thing that you want to start applying to your life every day. Yesterday was Earth Day, so it's like a great time to make a commitment, right? So do you have that item you want to start doing? Okay, now tell the person next to you what you're going to do. Go. Yeah. I don't hear a lot of noise. Tell your friends what you're doing.
My butter water, I'm going to use my butter water.
Use it.
What else are you guys gonna do? Come on, communicate. We're all happy friend, family here. All right. Okay, so now that you are all, committed to something, when you see each other in the office or out and about, you're gonna be like, hey, are you doing that thing you said you were gonna do? Like, keep each other accountable. We're all in this together. So, Recology is also very committed to making sure that we are focusing on reducing the amount of plastics out there, single-use disposable plastics. So this is our CEO, Mike Sangiacomo. He's been lobbying with the state of California. He wrote an op-ed, a letter to the president of the Petroleum Society, and really focusing on how can we really refuse these single-use plastics because they're causing so many problems. How many of you saw that video of the fork being pulled out of the turtle's nose? You didn't see that video? You saw it? It was sad, huh? Yeah, a fork was pulled out of a turtle's nose, and that fork was a plastic fork in the ocean. We caused that problem, so let's try and not do that. So we also have a lot of great resources on our website. We have our Better at the Bin video, which you can watch online on your own, and then also just really cool resources that we're happy to provide. So how many of you still feel like this? Well, I mean, a lot of you didn't feel like that already, so.
Only because of
So
this
how many of you
job.
feel like this now? Yeah, right? So I'm going to leave you with a picture of our Earth. This is our only one that we have.
Don't worry about
It's really
it.
important that we take care of all the resources we have to make sure we have enough for now and for future generations to come. And also a picture of San Francisco. It's really, really important that we all work together on this. We're so innovative in so many different fields, including waste, so let's continue to be leaders in this. I just went on a tour recently where a group of Brazilian investors were there, and they were just learning what we were doing here in San Francisco so they can replicate it in Brazil. So let's continue to be leaders. In Recology, we're very committed to this. We see a world without waste. We want to work with you to make sure that we all have the right resources to do things properly. I brought a bunch of outreach material here. Take them home, share them with your friends, family, neighbors, or tell someone that isn't here today, tell a colleague. Commit yourself to telling at least one person one thing you learned today. And I'm more than happy to come to other offices, your friends or family offices in San Francisco to do another presentation. We're here to educate you all. And with that, I thank you. Here's my email. Visit our website, visit our social media pages, and check us out. So thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh. Oh, actually, can we take a quick photo, guys?
Yes.
Because I have to send it to our social media team. Maybe.
You guys out facing that way?
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
And then
That'll be
maybe,
fun.
and then we can do a selfie after. So wait,
Recology,
let me go to the beginning.
Just turn around.
That way I don't feel like
Yeah, smile
Oh
everyone.
wow, you guys are everyone's got it. Cool.
Maybe everyone do a thumbs up or something, or a wave.
I can't get out of it.
Great. Thank you.
Nice camera.
So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me, take some outreach material, and thank you guys for coming. Thank you.
For my kid.
You guys didn't have as many questions as the last group.
Yeah, we're pretty.
Oh yeah, you guys know everything already.
Yeah.
I think Lisa, I showed you where it goes. No, so each thing goes to different places. So the trash goes to our
Because I only finished my job at 3:30.
area of North California, where it sits in a landfill for thousands of years. You have no idea how much.
Yeah, just one day.
So if you throw something, never. Well, it will, but a long ass time. Yeah. Even more than that. Yeah, so just don't throw everything in the trash because it will just sit there forever.
I don't think people know they can be fined.
Yeah, we need people like you to come on. So, yeah. You know what's really cool?
I'll put that by my
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's so irritating by the time I get ready to come home. Let's go with trash.
Yeah, I know. So work with your property manager or your owner and tell them how to do it right.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree. I'm gonna eat these goodies you guys all have here now.
Oh, yeah, I have to.
Oh, good.
You know those you know those box drinks like the straw part? No, that you take straw out and then it's sweet, whatever it's called.
The
That's
plastic?
recyclable, right?
The plastic film?
Yeah.
That's trash.
Oh, so it's
Too
not.
small.
Yeah, that's why I thought for someone like liquor it's not. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Okay.
Thanks for the presentation.
Of course.
Does Recology charge for this type of like?
No, it's free. Included in your service.
Nice.
It's my favorite part of my job.
Is it really? Oh.
Yeah, I love it. I just love meeting people and answering their questions.
Oh, okay.
Empowering them to do the right
Well,
thing.
this is a perfect job for you. Then.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go out this way.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Welcome, thank you.
Is Tracy up here?
Yeah, I think it's still here. She should be. No, you're not up here.
Did we stop recording?
Oh, it was recorded.